Jesus stated, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust." Matthew 5, verse 43 to 45. Love your enemies. Now, the first type of enemy we must think of in the immediate context of this passage is the Romans who occupied Israel at the time by force. The Romans were heathen enemy forces, forcefully occupying Israel, and yet they consisted of individual soldiers, flesh and blood humans made by our loving God. In line with Jesus' teaching, God's people were acting with an attitude that revealed neighborly love towards these heathen enemy soldiers. Doing so bore some fruit. Jewish elders testified about one Roman centurion. He loves our nation. He loves our nation, and it was he who built us our synagogue. Luke 7, verse 6. A Roman centurion was not only an enemy soldier, but a commander of enemy soldiers. God's people loved this enemy, and their love for him turned his heart around so that in return he loved the Jewish nation, even to the extent that he built them a synagogue where they could learn more deeply about the word of our God and pray to him. Even more importantly, this enemy commander of enemy soldiers developed faith in our God, a faith about which Jesus marveled, saying, "Not even in Israel have I found such great faith." Luke 7, verse 9. Let's look at the full account in Luke 7, verse 2 to 10. A centurion slave who was highly regarded by him was sick and about to die. Now, when he heard about Jesus, he sent some Jewish elders asking Jesus to come and save the life of his slave. And when they came to Jesus, these Jewish elders were earnestly pleading with him, saying, "The centurion is worthy for you to grant this to him, for he loves our nation, and it was he who built us our synagogue." Now Jesus was going on his way with the elders, and when he was not far from the house, the centurion sent friends, saying to him, "Lord, do not trouble yourself further, for I am not good enough for you to come under my roof. For this reason I did not even consider myself worthy to come to you. But just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I also am a man placed under authority with soldiers under me, and I say to this one, 'Go,' and he goes, and to another, 'Come,' and he comes, and to my slave, 'Do this,' and he does it." Now, when Jesus heard this, he marveled at him, and he turned to the crowd that was following him and said, "I say to you, not even in Israel have I found such great faith." When those who had been sent returned to the house, they found the slave in good health. In this account, we see how enemy love transformed a heathen and an enemy into a fellow believer in our God. Simple as that. Mission accomplished. Love conquers about 1% of the time. Let's be honest, 99% of the time the enemy's heart does not change. 99% of Roman soldiers did not start loving the Jewish nation and did not end up having faith in Jesus. In fact, they spit in his face. They crucified him. But if loving our enemies could cause even 1% of them to turn to God, loving them was worth it. There is another beautiful example of enemy love, changing enemy hearts, converting heathens to the God of Israel. In the book of Daniel, we see that Daniel, along with the other Israelites, was in exile, forcefully taken away from their land by the Babylonians, the enemies of these people who served foreign gods. The Israelites sat down by the rivers of Babylon, refusing to sing, but Daniel acted in love towards his enemies. He served in their government. He explained the dreams through which our God communicated with their heathen kings. When Daniel was thrown to the lions, he did not become hateful toward the heathen king. Daniel was God's ambassador in a heathen enemy government in an idolatrous empire where he served as a government administrator. After Daniel interpreted Nebuchadnezzar's dream, the king declared, "Surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings." Daniel 2 verse 47. Daniel served under multiple rulers: Nebuchadnezzar II, Belshazzar, Darius the Mede, and Cyrus the Great. In Daniel 6, after Daniel survived the lion's den, Darius issued a heartwarming decree to all peoples in his kingdom. In Daniel 6 verse 25 to 26, we read, "King Darius wrote to all the nations and peoples of every language in all the earth, 'May you prosper greatly. I issue a decree that in every part of my kingdom people must fear and reverence the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed. His dominion will never end.'" In the end, after 70 years in exile, King Cyrus the Great permitted the Israelites to return to their country and commanded the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem, even paying for the expenses. Daniel was abducted by the enemies of Israel, and because of his brilliance, he was taken to serve in their foreign government. But his heart was not darkened by hatred for his enemies. Instead, the light of his love for his enemies, for his God, and for all created by God shone a light so bright that it changed the world he lived in, spanning several countries as far as the Babylonian Empire stretched. We feel comfortable with this heartwarming half of the truth. But the other half of the truth remains. 99% of the time, the enemy's heart does not change. Not for the good in any way. We see that the other supervisors and the governors tried to find something wrong with the way Daniel administered the empire. They plotted to have him killed. Love for his enemies did not change his colleagues' hearts. Instead, they were overcome with jealousy and hatred for him. In Daniel 6 verse 3 to 5, Good News Translation, we read, "Daniel soon showed that he could do better work than the other supervisors or the governors. Because he was so outstanding, the king considered putting him in charge of the whole empire." Then the other supervisors and the governors tried to find something wrong with the way Daniel administered the empire. But they couldn't, because Daniel was reliable and did not do anything wrong or dishonest. They said to each other, "We are not going to find anything of which to accuse Daniel unless it is something in connection with his religion." It was said, "You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy." But Jesus says to us, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. In this talk, we have scratched the surface of what that entails practically in our daily lives. We saw how enemy love changed the heart of the Roman commander of enemy forces to become a fellow believer in Christ. We saw how enemy love changed the attitudes of enemy rulers and how a whole heathen empire was directed toward honoring our God. But we also saw that there is another side to this truth. Enemy love changes only 1% of our enemies' hearts for the good, while the rest become even more overcome with jealousy and hatred. So, our discussion has to continue in the next talk when we will try to better understand the different aspects of enemy love, what it is and what it is not, and its practical implications in different situations. This talk is part of a mini series on this topic, and the series is part of a playlist on the Sermon on the Mount. Check out the playlist on my YouTube channel. But to be notified of future videos, you actually have to click that black subscribe button not once, but twice. The second click on the button allows you to change your subscription from personalized to all notifications. Otherwise, you might be subscribed to receive 0 notifications when a video gets published. Until next time, I'm Nicholas, thinking about God.